for school. Adrian left for the office by 7, usually not returning until after dinner. Claire spent her days cleaning the house, not because anyone asked her to, but because she needed something to do with her hands and her mind. Maria protested at first, insisting that was her job, but eventually accepted Claire's help with good grace. They worked together in comfortable silence, Maria sharing stories about her 3 grown children and 7 grandchildren, while Claire listened and learned the house's routines. In the afternoons, Claire picked Noah up from school. The first time she showed up at the pickup line, the other parents stared. By the 3rd day, they'd stopped staring and started whispering instead. Claire ignored them. She'd learned long ago that people would judge regardless of what you did, so you might as well do what was right and let them think whatever they wanted. Noah always came out of school with his backpack dragging on the ground and his shirt untucked. The first thing he'd ask was always the same. "Did you stay?" "I stayed," Claire would confirm, and Noah's whole body would relax. They'd go home and have a snack, apple slices with peanut butter, or crackers and cheese, or sometimes cookies if Maria was feeling generous. Then homework, which Noah approached with the enthusiasm of someone walking to their own execution. "I hate math," he announced on Thursday, glaring at a worksheet full of addition problems. "Math's not so bad once you get the hang of it," Claire said. "That's what Dad says. But Dad's an engineer. He likes math. It's weird." Claire bit back a smile. "What if we make it more interesting? Like, instead of just numbers, what if each problem is about dinosaurs?" Noah's head snapped up. "How?" "Okay, so this one says 5 plus 3. Let's say you have 5 T-Rexes and 3 Velociraptors. How many dinosaurs do you have total?" Noah considered this seriously. 8 dinosaurs. But the T-Rexes would probably eat the Velociraptors, so really you'd end up with just 5 fat T-Rexes. Let's stick with the math for now and worry about dinosaur dietary habits later. It worked. Noah plowed through his homework in record time when every problem involved dinosaurs, spaceships, or his Lego city. Claire made a mental note to mention it to his teacher. Evenings were quieter. Adrian usually made it home by 7, looking exhausted and rumpled. He'd change out of his suit, have dinner with them, and then spend an hour with Noah before bedtime, reading stories, building Legos, or just talking about their days. Claire tried to give them space during this time, retreating to her room or helping Maria in the kitchen. But sometimes Noah would seek her out, wanting her to join in on the bedtime story or see the latest addition to his Lego city. "You don't have to include me," Claire told Adrian one evening after Noah had specifically requested she listen to his reading practice. "This is your time with him." "He wants you there," Adrian said simply. "And honestly, it's easier with 2. Tag team parenting." "I'm not a parent." "You're the closest thing to a co-parent I've had since Victoria left." He said it matter-of-factly, but Claire saw something vulnerable in his expression. "Is that weird? Is this whole situation weird?" "Completely," Claire admitted. "But I don't think weird is necessarily bad." "No," Adrian agreed. "It's just different." Different became normal faster than Claire expected. By the end of the 2nd week, she could navigate the house in the dark, knew exactly how Noah liked his sandwiches cut, and had memorized Adrian's coffee order: black, 2 sugars, extra hot. She'd also started to notice things, small details that told bigger stories, like how Adrian's hands shook slightly when he got stressed, or how he'd retreat to his office after particularly difficult phone calls and wouldn't emerge for hours. How he kept a photo of Noah as a baby on his desk, but no pictures of Victoria anywhere in the house. How he'd check his phone obsessively when he was worried about something but couldn't talk about what was bothering him. And Noah. Noah had tells too. The way he'd go quiet and withdrawn when other kids from school were mentioned. How he'd touch Claire's arm or hand periodically throughout the day, as if confirming she was still there. The nightmare frequency had decreased but hadn't stopped entirely. On Friday evening of the 2nd week, Adrian came home early, just after 5, which was practically unprecedented. "I have a business dinner tonight," he explained, already looking apologetic. "Investors from Tokyo. I tried to reschedule, but—" "It's fine," Claire interrupted. "That's literally what you hired me for." "I know, but I hate leaving him." "He'll survive. We'll order pizza and watch a movie. It'll be fun." Adrian hesitated, then nodded. "Okay. I should be back by 10 at the latest. Call me if—" "I know. If anything goes wrong, I'll call, but nothing's going to go wrong." Famous last words. Everything was fine until bath time. Noah had been in a good mood all evening, chattering happily through dinner and laughing at the movie they'd picked. But when Claire suggested it was time to get ready for bed, his whole demeanor changed. "No," he said flatly. "I don't want to take a bath." "You don't have to take a bath. A quick shower is fine." "I don't want to shower either." Claire kept her voice calm and even. "Buddy, you've got marker on your hands from your art project, and what I'm pretty sure is ketchup in your hair. You need to wash up." "No!" Noah's voice rose. "You can't make me." "You're right. I can't make you, but your dad's rule is bath or shower every night, and I'm not going to break his rules." "I don't care about Dad's stupid rules." Noah's face was flushed, his hands balled into fists. Claire recognized the signs. This was heading toward a meltdown. "Okay," she said carefully. "Let's take a breath. What's really going on here? You like baths, usually." "I don't want you to leave." The words burst out of him, raw and desperate. "If I go to bed, you might leave while I'm sleeping." And there it was, the real fear underneath the defiance. Claire sat down on the floor, putting herself at Noah's eye level. "Hey, look at me." Noah's lower lip was trembling, but he met her eyes. "I'm not going anywhere," Claire said firmly. "I'm going to be here when you go to sleep, and I'm going to be here when you wake up. I promise." "Dad promised to be here tonight, and he's not." "Your dad had to work. That's different than leaving. He's coming back." "How do you know?" "Because he always comes back, and so will I." Claire held out her hand. "Tell you what, how about you take your bath, and I'll sit right outside the bathroom door the whole time. You can talk to me through the door so you know I'm there." Noah considered this, sniffling. "You won't leave? Even for a second?" "Not even for a second." "Promise?" "Cross my heart." The bath took 45 minutes because Noah kept stopping to make sure Claire was still there. She sat on the hallway floor with her back against the wall, responding to his periodic, "Claire? Are you there?" with endless patience. When he finally emerged, clean and wrapped in a towel, his eyes were red-rimmed but calmer. "See?" Claire said. "I stayed." "Yeah," Noah whispered. "You did." Getting him into pajamas and through teeth brushing was easier. By the time Claire tucked him into bed, he was yawning, the earlier meltdown draining what energy he had left. "Will you stay until I fall asleep?" he asked, the same request he'd made every night since the nightmare. "Of course." Claire settled into the chair beside his bed, picking up the book they'd been reading, something about a mouse who wanted to be a knight. She made it through 3 pages before Noah interrupted. "Claire?" "Yeah, buddy." "I'm glad you're here." The simple statement hit her square in the chest. "I'm glad I'm here too." "Even though I yelled at you?" "You were scared. Scared people sometimes yell. It's okay." "Mom used to yell a lot," Noah said quietly. "Before she left. She'd yell at me and at Dad, and then she'd cry and say she was sorry, but then she'd yell again the next day." Claire set down the book, giving him her full attention. "That must have been really confusing. I thought it was my fault, that I made her mad." "Oh, honey, no." Claire leaned forward. "Adults yell because of adult stuff going on inside them. It's never a kid's fault." "Dad says that too." Noah pulled his blanket up to his chin. "But sometimes I still think maybe if I'd been better, she would have stayed." "Your mom leaving had nothing to do with you. You were 3 years old. 3-year-olds don't make people leave. People leave because of their own problems." "Do you have problems, like the kind that make people leave?" The question caught Claire off guard. "Yeah," she admitted. "I've got some problems, but none of them are going to make me leave you." "How do you know?" "Because my problems are about me, not about you. And I've learned that running away doesn't fix anything. It just moves the problems to a different location." Noah thought about this seriously. "Like when I tried to run away from math homework by hiding in my closet, but the homework was still there when I came out?" Despite the heaviness of the conversation, Claire smiled. "Exactly like that." "Okay." Noah yawned again, his eyes starting to droop. "Can you keep reading now?" Claire picked up the book and continued the story of the Mouse Knight. By the time she finished the chapter, Noah was asleep, his breathing deep and even. She stayed anyway, watching him sleep and thinking about everything he'd said. The casual way he'd mentioned his mother's yelling, the deep-seated belief that he'd somehow caused her departure. The daily anxiety that everyone else would leave too. 6 years old and already carrying so much weight. Claire knew that weight. She'd carried a different version of it her whole life, the conviction that she was somehow fundamentally unlovable, that people would inevitably leave once they saw who she really was. It was part of why she'd pushed everyone away when things got hard. Better to leave first than be left. But sitting here in Noah's room, watching him sleep peacefully for once, Claire felt something shift inside her. Maybe the answer wasn't running away from connection. Maybe it was running toward it, even when it was scary. Especially when it was scary. Adrian came home just after 10, as promised. Claire heard the front door open and his footsteps on the stairs. She was in the hallway when he reached the landing, and he looked relieved to see her. "How was he?" Adrian asked quietly. "He had a rough patch at bath time, meltdown about me leaving." Claire filled him in on the details. "But we got through it. He's been asleep for about an hour." Adrian moved to Noah's doorway, looking in at his sleeping son. "I hate that he's so anxious." "It's getting better, though. 2 weeks ago, he wouldn't have been able to tell me what he was really afraid of. Tonight, he could verbalize it." "That's progress?" "That's huge progress." Claire leaned against the wall. "How was your dinner?" "Long, boring. The Tokyo investors want to expand into markets we're not ready for yet, and they don't want to hear that we need another year of development." He rubbed his eyes tiredly. "Sorry, you don't need to hear about work stuff." "I don't mind." They stood in the hallway, both tired, neither quite ready to call it a night yet. "Can I ask you something?" Adrian said. When Noah mentioned his mother yelling, did he say anything else about her? Claire hesitated. She didn't want to betray Noah's confidence, but Adrian deserved to know what his son was dealing with. He said he sometimes thinks it was his fault she left, that if he'd been better, she would have stayed. Adrian's face went pale. Jesus. I told him that wasn't true, that her leaving had nothing to do with him. I've told him that 100 times. Why doesn't he believe me? Because he's 6, and 6-year-olds think the world revolves around them. If something bad happens, it must be because of something they did. Claire's voice was gentle. He'll understand eventually. You just have to keep saying it until he does. What if eventually isn't soon enough? What if he grows up thinking... Adrian stopped, his jaw working. He won't, because he's got you, and now he's got me, and we're going to keep showing him every day that he's worth staying for. Claire surprised herself with the certainty in her voice. He's going to be okay, Adrian. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but he will. Adrian looked at her for a long moment, something unreadable in his expression. You're good at this. Better than you give yourself credit for. I'm just doing my job. No, Adrian said quietly. You're doing a lot more than that. The weight of his words hung between them, and Claire suddenly felt very aware of how close they were standing, how quiet the house was, how his eyes were the kind of dark brown you could get lost in if you weren't careful. She took a step back. I should get some sleep, she said. Early morning tomorrow. Yeah, of course. Adrian cleared his throat. Thanks again, for tonight, for everything. That's what you pay me for. She was halfway to her room when his voice stopped her. Claire? She turned. I'm really glad you're here. I don't think I've said that clearly enough, but I am. Claire's throat felt tight. Me too, she managed. Good night, Adrian. Good night. She closed her bedroom door and leaned against it, her heart beating faster than it should have been. This was her job. That was all it was. She was the hired help, the nanny, the woman he'd pulled off the streets out of gratitude and maybe pity. Getting confused about that would be a disaster. But as Claire climbed into bed and pulled the covers up to her chin, she couldn't quite shake the warmth that had bloomed in her chest at the look in Adrian's eyes. She fell asleep telling herself it didn't mean anything, and almost believing it. The shift happened so gradually that Claire almost didn't notice it at first. Small things, barely worth mentioning. Adrian started coming home earlier, 6 instead of 8, sometimes even 5:30. He'd walk through the door and immediately seek out Noah, scooping him up for a hug that made the boy shriek with laughter. But his eyes would always find Claire too, just for a second. A quick glance, a small smile, an acknowledgement that she was there. It shouldn't have meant anything. It was just politeness, basic human decency. But Claire felt it anyway, that flutter of warmth in her chest that she kept trying to ignore. 3 weeks into her new life, Noah's school called. Claire was folding laundry when her new phone, courtesy of Adrian's assistant, Jennifer, buzzed with an unknown number. Ms. Dawson, this is Principal Hendricks at Westbrook Academy. We need you to come pick up Noah. There's been an incident. Claire's stomach dropped. Is he hurt? No, he's fine physically, but there was an altercation with another student, and our policy requires he be sent home for the rest of the day. The drive to the school took 15 minutes that felt like an hour. Claire's mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. Noah didn't fight. He barely talked to other kids, let alone got into physical altercations with them. The principal's office was exactly what she'd expected. Dark wood furniture, diplomas on the wall, the faint smell of old books and nervous children. Noah sat in a chair outside the main office, his legs swinging and not quite reaching the floor. His face was blotchy from crying, and there was a rip in his shirt sleeve. Hey, buddy, Claire said softly, kneeling in front of him. You okay? Noah's lip trembled. I didn't mean to. He kept saying mean things and I told him to stop, but he wouldn't, and then he pushed me and I... His voice cracked. It's okay. We'll figure it out. Claire squeezed his hand gently, then stood to face Principal Hendricks, who had emerged from her office looking stern and disapproving. Ms. Dawson, thank you for coming so quickly. Noah struck another student during recess. We have a zero-tolerance policy for violence. What happened before he struck the student? Claire asked, keeping her voice level. Principal Hendricks blinked. I'm sorry? You said Noah struck another student. I'm asking what led up to that. What was said, what was done. That's irrelevant to... It's completely relevant. Claire felt her teacher instincts kicking in, the part of her that had gone to bat for struggling students more times than she could count. Noah doesn't have a history of violence, so either something happened to provoke this, or he suddenly developed aggressive tendencies overnight. Which seems more likely to you? The principal's expression tightened. The other child, Marcus, says he was simply playing when Noah attacked him unprovoked. And what does Noah say? Noah hasn't been willing to talk to us about it. Claire looked down at Noah, who was staring at his shoes with fierce concentration. Can I have a minute alone with him? Principal Hendricks hesitated, then nodded curtly. 5 minutes. My office is right here if you need me. After she left, Claire sat down in the chair beside Noah. She didn't say anything at first, just waited. Sometimes silence was more powerful than questions. Finally, Noah spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus said you were going to leave, that you were just pretending to like me because Dad pays you. He said his mom told him you were homeless and probably crazy, and I should stay away from you. The words hit Claire like a slap. She'd known the other parents were gossiping. She'd seen the looks, heard the whispers cut off when she approached. But knowing Noah had to hear it, had to defend her against it, made rage burn hot in her chest. What else did Marcus say? She asked carefully. He said homeless people were dirty and lazy, and that's why they don't have houses. He said you probably stole things, and Dad was stupid for letting you around me. Noah's hands were clenched into fists. I told him he was wrong, that you saved my life, and you're nice, and you're my friend. But he just laughed and pushed me and said I was stupid too. So you pushed him back. I didn't mean to push him so hard. He fell down and scraped his knee and started crying, and the teacher came and... Noah's voice broke. Am I in really bad trouble? Claire pulled him into a hug, feeling his small body shake against hers. You're not in trouble with me. What Marcus said was mean and wrong, and you were right to defend yourself and me, but hitting isn't the answer, even when people say terrible things. I know, Noah mumbled into her shoulder. I know hitting is wrong, I just got so mad. Being angry is okay. Anger is a normal feeling, but we have to find better ways to express it than hurting people, even when they hurt us first. Claire pulled back to look at him. Want to know what I do when people say mean things about me? Noah nodded. I remember that people who say mean things are usually scared or hurt or angry about something in their own lives. It's not really about me at all. They're just taking their bad feelings out on whoever's nearby. Claire wiped a tear from Noah's cheek. Marcus's mom probably said those things because she doesn't understand. She sees someone who's homeless and makes assumptions instead of asking questions. That's her problem, not yours or mine. But what she said wasn't true. You're not dirty or lazy or bad. No, I'm not. But even if I was, I'd still be a person who deserves kindness. We all do. Claire stood up. Come on, let's go talk to Principal Hendricks. The conversation with the principal was tense, but ultimately productive. Claire explained what Marcus had said, and to her credit, Hendricks's expression shifted from stern to troubled. That's that's unacceptable, she said slowly. If what you're saying is true, why would Noah lie? Claire interrupted. He's the one who got in trouble. Making up a story about what the other kid said wouldn't help his case. Nevertheless, I'll need to speak with Marcus and his parents about this. Bullying is taken very seriously at Westbrook. Good. And while you're at it, maybe have a conversation with all the parents about making assumptions about people they don't know. Because whatever they're saying in their homes is clearly filtering down to the kids. Principal Hendricks stiffened. I can't control what parents discuss in their private. No, but you can set a tone. You can make it clear that this school doesn't tolerate discrimination of any kind, including against people who are experiencing homelessness. Claire kept her voice steady despite the anger thrumming through her veins. I was a teacher for 4 years. I know how school culture works. It starts at the top. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then Hendricks nodded slowly. You're right. I'll address this at the next parent assembly. She turned to Noah. Noah, I'm sorry for not getting the full story before calling your father's house. That wasn't fair to you. Noah didn't respond, just pressed closer to Claire's side. On the drive home, Noah was quiet, staring out the window at the passing city. Claire let the silence stretch, knowing he'd talk when he was ready. Finally, he said, Are you mad at me? No, buddy. I'm not mad. Dad's going to be mad. Your dad's going to be upset that you got hurt and that another kid said mean things to you, but he's not going to be mad at you for defending yourself. How do you know? Because I know your dad, and he loves you more than anything in the world. When they got home, Claire texted Adrian to let him know what happened. His response came within seconds. On my way home now. How is he? Shaken but okay. We talked about it. Thank you. Be there in 20. Adrian made it in 15, practically running into the house. Noah was in his room, building with Legos in the focused way he did when he was trying not to think about something upsetting. Hey, Noah, Adrian said from the doorway, his voice gentle. Can we talk? Noah's hand stilled on the Lego pieces. I'm sorry I hit Marcus. I know violence is wrong. I won't do it again. Come here. Adrian sat on the edge of Noah's bed, and after a moment, Noah climbed up beside him. I'm not mad at you for defending yourself or for defending Claire. What I'm mad about is that you were in a position where you felt you had to. Marcus was being mean. I know. Claire told me what he said, and that's not okay, not even a little bit. Adrian wrapped his arm around Noah's shoulders. But you know what the best revenge is? Noah shook his head. Being happy anyway. Living your life, being kind, proving that the mean things people say aren't true, that makes them look foolish, and you look strong. That's what Claire said too, kind of. Adrian glanced at Claire, who was standing in the doorway. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or shared purpose. Claire's a smart lady, Adrian said. You should listen to her. That night, after Noah was asleep, Claire found Adrian in the kitchen making tea. He looked tired, the kind of exhaustion that came from emotional strain rather than physical work. Want some? He asked, holding up the kettle. Sure. Thanks. They sat at the kitchen island, the house quiet around them. Maria had gone home hours ago, and Noah's soft snoring carried faintly from upstairs. I'm sorry you had to deal with that today, Adrian said. With the principal, with what Marcus said. You shouldn't have to defend yourself to a bunch of judgmental parents who don't know anything about you. I've dealt with worse, Claire said. And honestly, I was more worried about Noah than myself. He really went to bat for you. Yeah, Claire wrapped her hands around the warm mug. Kids are loyal like that when they feel safe with someone. It's one of the things I loved about teaching. They'll defend the people they care about with everything they have, even when it gets them in trouble. Especially then. Adrian was quiet for a moment, staring into his tea. Can I ask you something personal? Claire tensed slightly. Okay. When you were homeless, did people say things like that to you? The things Marcus said? The question surprised her. Most people avoided asking about her time on the streets, like it was something shameful that shouldn't be acknowledged. Yeah, she said honestly. All the time. People assume you're lazy or stupid or morally deficient somehow, like you chose to sleep on cold concrete because it seemed fun. How did you handle it? Mostly I just kept my head down and tried to stay invisible. Engaging with people who'd already decided who you were, it wasn't worth the energy. Claire took a sip of tea. But sometimes, late at night when I couldn't sleep, I'd imagine what I'd say to them if I had the chance. How I'd explain that I was just a normal person who got hit with bad luck and a broken system. Did you ever get that chance? Once. A woman at a soup kitchen started loudly complaining about how homeless people should just get jobs. I was tired and hungry, and I'd had a really bad day, so I told her about my teaching degree, my work history, my medical debt. Asked her what she'd do in my position. Claire smiled without humor. She got very quiet and left without finishing her meal. Good, Adrian said fiercely. People need to hear it. They need to understand it could happen to anyone. Most people don't want to understand, because understanding means admitting they're not as safe as they think they are. That the distance between a stable life and homelessness is a lot shorter than they want to believe. Adrian set down his mug, his expression serious. I've been thinking about this a lot since you came here. About how broken the system is, how many people fall through the cracks. I want to do something about it. Like what? I don't know yet. Donate to shelters, maybe. Fund housing programs. Use my platform to advocate for policy changes. He ran a hand through his hair, making it stick up at odd angles. It feels inadequate, like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, but doing nothing feels worse. It's not inadequate, Claire said softly. Every bit helps. Every person housed, every meal served, every policy changed, it all matters. You really believe that? I have to. Otherwise, the time I spent out there was just meaningless suffering. They sat in silence for a while, nursing their tea and their thoughts. Outside, the city hummed its endless song, sirens and traffic, and the distant rumble of the L train. Can I tell you something? Adrian said finally. Something I haven't told anyone. Claire's heart beat a little faster. Okay. When Victoria left, I was almost relieved. Is that terrible? He didn't wait for an answer. Our marriage was a disaster from the start. We met at a tech conference, had this whirlwind romance, got married 6 months later. I thought I was in love. Turned out I was just lonely, and she was good at pretending to be someone she wasn't. What do you mean? She wanted the lifestyle, the house, the money, the status of being married to a successful CEO. But she didn't actually want the life that came with it. The long hours, the stress, the responsibility of raising a kid while I was building the company. Adrian's voice was flat, reciting facts. When she got pregnant, I thought maybe it would help. Give us a shared purpose. But she hated being pregnant, hated being a mother, hated everything about the reality of what she'd signed up for. That must have been hard, Claire said carefully. The hard part was watching her take it out on Noah. He was just a baby, and she'd get so frustrated when he cried or needed things. She never hurt him, but she'd just shut down, leave him crying in his crib and lock herself in the bedroom. I'd come home from work to find him screaming and her passed out from the wine she'd been drinking all day. Claire felt her chest tighten. Adrian, I should have left her sooner, should have protected him better, but I kept thinking she'd get better, that postpartum depression would pass, that we just needed time. His hands were clenched around his mug so tightly his knuckles were white. Then one day I came home and she was gone. Note on the kitchen counter, closet half empty. At first I panicked, but then I went upstairs and Noah was with the nanny, safe and fed and happy. And I realized he was better off without her. You can't blame yourself for trying to make it work. Can I? I put my son through 3 years of instability because I was too proud to admit my marriage was a failure. You were trying to give him a mother. That's not pride. That's love. Adrian looked at her then, really looked at her, and something in his expression made Claire's breath catch. How do you do that? He asked quietly. Do what? Make everything seem less terrible. You've been through hell yourself, but you still manage to see the best in people. Even me. Especially you, Claire said before she could stop herself. You're a good father, Adrian, a good person. You've got your flaws, but who doesn't? You're very forgiving for someone who got burned by the world. Being bitter wouldn't change anything. It would just make me miserable on top of everything else. Claire set down her mug. Besides, you gave me a second chance when nobody else would. That means something. You earned it. You saved my son. And you saved me right back. We're even. We're not even close to even, Adrian said. You've given Noah something I couldn't. Stability, patience, someone who actually knows how to talk to a 6-year-old without making it weird. Claire laughed despite herself. You're not that bad at it. I'm terrible at it. I talk to him like he's a tiny adult. It's a problem. It's endearing. The word hung in the air between them. Claire realized too late how it sounded. Too personal, too familiar. She was the employee. He was her boss. There were lines, and she'd just stepped over one. But Adrian was smiling, a real smile that reached his eyes and made him look younger, less burdened. Endearing, he repeated. I'll take it. The moment stretched, neither of them quite willing to break it. Then Adrian's phone buzzed with an email notification, and the spell broke. I should let you get some sleep, he said, standing up. Thanks for handling everything today. With Noah, with the school. I don't know what I'd do without you. The words were casual, throwaway, but they landed in Claire's chest like stones, heavy and significant. Any time, she managed. After Adrian left, Claire stayed in the kitchen for a long time, staring at her empty mug and trying to sort through the tangle of feelings in her chest. This was dangerous. She was getting too attached to Noah, to this house, to the life she was building here, and maybe possibly to Adrian himself. But she'd promised Noah she wouldn't leave, and Claire Dawson didn't break promises to kids, even if keeping them might break her heart. The next few weeks passed in a blur of routine. School pickups, homework battles, dinner preparations, bedtime stories. Claire fell into the rhythm of it easily, and Noah thrived under the consistency. The nightmares became less frequent. His teacher reported he was participating more in class, even raising his hand to answer questions. Whatever you're doing at home, keep doing it, she told Claire at pickup one day. He's like a different child, but not everything was smooth. Marcus's mother filed a formal complaint with the school about Noah's behavior, demanding he be disciplined more severely. Principal Hendricks handled it with surprising firmness, pointing out that Marcus had also received consequences for his part in the incident. Still, the complaint meant Claire had to deal with more pointed stares and whispered conversations at pickup. The other parents made no secret of their disapproval. A homeless woman caring for one of the wealthiest children at the school. It was scandalous, inappropriate, probably dangerous. Claire tried to ignore it, but ignoring the whispers was easier than ignoring the way Adrian had started looking at her. It was subtle, a glance that lasted a beat too long, his hand brushing hers when they both reached for the same dish at dinner. The way he'd seek her opinion on things that had nothing to do with Noah. What wine to serve at his next business dinner, whether the living room furniture was too sterile, if she thought he should grow his hair out a little. Small things. Things that meant nothing individually but added up to something Claire couldn't quite name. She told herself she was imagining it, that Adrian was just being friendly, treating her like a valued employee. That the warmth in his eyes when he looked at her was gratitude, nothing more. But late at night, lying in her comfortable bed in her comfortable room, Claire couldn't quite convince herself. One Saturday evening, 6 weeks into her new life, Adrian surprised her by suggesting they all go out to dinner. There's this Italian place Noah loves, he said. We haven't been in months. I thought it might be nice. You two should go, Claire said automatically. Spend some father-son time together. Come with us. It wasn't quite a request. Please. Noah specifically asked if you'd come. Which was how Claire found herself in a booth at a cozy Italian restaurant, Noah bouncing excitedly beside her while Adrian studied the wine list. Can I get the spaghetti with the giant meatballs? Noah asked for the third time. Yes, Adrian and Claire said in unison, then looked at each other and smiled. You two sound like real parents, Noah observed, like married ones. The statement hung in the air like a bomb. Claire felt her face heat, and Adrian nearly dropped the wine list. We're not... Adrian started. I know you're not married, Dad. Duh! Noah rolled his eyes with the confidence of a child who thought he understood everything. But you act like it sometimes. Like when you both tell me to do my homework at the same time, or when you give each other looks when I say something funny. What kind of looks? Claire asked, genuinely curious despite her embarrassment. The kind where you're trying not to laugh, but you want to make sure the other person also thinks it's funny. Noah demonstrated by attempting a subtle glance at Adrian, who was staring very intently at the wine list. Buddy, maybe we should... Adrian tried. It's okay. I like it. Noah swung his legs under the table. It's nice having two people around who like each other. Mom and Dad never looked at each other like that. Claire's heart squeezed. She wanted to redirect the conversation, to save Adrian from this awkward moment. But before she could, the waiter appeared to take their order. Dinner proceeded normally after that, filled with Noah's chatter about school and Legos and the new dinosaur book Claire had gotten him from the library. But Claire was hyper-aware of Adrian across the table, the way he'd gone quiet and thoughtful. On the drive home, Noah fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the excitement. Claire and Adrian rode in silence, the city lights streaming past the windows. "I'm sorry about what Noah said," Adrian finally said, "about us acting like we're married. He shouldn't have put you on the spot like that. He's 6. 6-year-olds say whatever pops into their heads. Still, it was inappropriate." Claire looked out the window. Was it wrong, though? What he said about us looking at each other? The silence that followed was heavy with things neither of them knew how to say. "No," Adrian said quietly. "It wasn't wrong." Claire's heart hammered against her ribs. "Adrian, I know this is complicated and probably a terrible idea, and you work for me, which makes everything weird." He kept his eyes on the road. "But I can't stop thinking about you. The way you are with Noah, the way you fit into our lives like you were always supposed to be here, the way you make me laugh when I've forgotten how to. I needed you to know." Claire didn't know what to say. Her mind raced through 1,000 responses, 1,000 reasons why this was impossible. I don't expect anything," Adrian continued. "I'm not asking you to feel the same way or do anything about it. I just couldn't keep pretending I didn't feel it anymore." They pulled into the garage and Adrian turned off the engine. In the sudden quiet, Claire could hear her own breathing, fast and shallow. "I do," she said. "Feel the same way. I've been trying not to, but I do." Adrian turned to look at her, his expression unreadable in the dim light. "Yeah?" "Yeah," Claire laughed shakily. "Which is a problem, because you're my boss, and I'm living in your house, and I don't want to mess this up for Noah. So what do we do?" "I don't know." Claire looked back at Noah, still sound asleep in his car seat. "But whatever we do, we have to be careful. He can't get hurt because we're figuring out our feelings." "Agreed." Adrian reached across the console and took her hand, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. "We'll take it slow. Figure it out as we go." "Slow," Claire repeated. "I can do slow." But as they sat there in the dark garage, hands intertwined, neither of them moved to let go. Slow turned out to be harder than either of them expected. They tried. They really did. But there were moments when slow felt impossible, like when Adrian's hand would linger on Claire's shoulder as he passed her in the kitchen, or when their eyes would meet across the dinner table and the air would thicken with everything they weren't saying. Noah noticed, of course. Kids always noticed. "Why do you keep smiling at each other like that?" he asked one morning at breakfast, his spoon halfway to his mouth. "Like what?" Claire tried to keep her voice casual. "Like you have a secret. You do it all the time now." Noah looked between them suspiciously. "Is it a surprise for me? Because my birthday isn't until August." "No surprise," Adrian said quickly. "We're just happy. Is that okay?" Noah considered this seriously. "Yeah, I guess. I like it when you're both happy. It's better than when Dad used to be grumpy all the time." "I wasn't grumpy all the time," Adrian protested. "You kind of were," Noah said matter-of-factly. "Before Claire came, you were always on your phone looking mad about emails." Claire bit back a smile as Adrian's ears turned red. "Out of the mouths of babes," she murmured. "Traitor," Adrian muttered, but he was fighting a smile too. The truth was, things had shifted in the house. The air felt lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted that Claire hadn't even realized was there. Adrian laughed more, worked less, actually sat down for full meals instead of eating standing up while checking his laptop. Noah's anxiety continued to improve. No nightmares in 2 weeks. And he'd even made a friend at school, a quiet girl named Sophie who liked dinosaurs as much as he did. Everything should have been perfect, but Claire couldn't shake the nagging feeling that she was waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on a Tuesday afternoon in late April. Claire was at the grocery store with Noah, debating between 2 brands of pasta sauce, when she heard a voice she hadn't heard in almost a year. "Claire? Claire Dawson?" She turned and there was Jessica, her former best friend, former roommate, the person who'd kicked her out when things got hard. Jessica looked exactly the same. Highlighted hair, designer yoga pants, the kind of casual wealth that came from never having to worry about money. "Jessica." Claire's voice came out flat. Oh my gosh, it is you. Jessica's eyes were wide, taking in Claire's clean clothes, her neat hair, the cart full of groceries. I heard you were… someone said they saw you. She stopped, clearly uncomfortable. Homeless? Claire supplied. Yeah, I was. For 8 months. Jessica flinched. I'm so sorry. I wanted to reach out, but I didn't know how to find you, and Brian said… She cut herself off again. Brian said what? That it wasn't our problem, that you made your choices and had to live with them. Jessica's face was red now. But I should have tried harder, should have done something. Noah tugged on Claire's sleeve. Who's this? An old friend, Claire said, then corrected herself. Actually, no, someone I used to know. Jessica's face crumpled slightly, but she nodded. That's fair, I deserve that. She looked at Noah. Hi there. I'm Jessica. I'm Noah. Claire takes care of me. That's nice. Jessica's eyes shifted back to Claire, questions written all over her face. So you're working as a nanny now? Something like that. For anyone I'd know? Claire felt a perverse satisfaction in answering. Adrian Kingston, the CEO of Kingston Technologies. Jessica's jaw actually dropped. You're working for Adrian Kingston, the billionaire Adrian Kingston. That's the one. How did you… that's amazing. Good for you. Jessica's tone suggested she thought it was anything but amazing, that she was calculating angles and implications and probably coming up with a dozen judgmental conclusions. Claire felt Noah press closer to her side, picking up on the tension even if he didn't understand it. We should go, Claire said. Nice seeing you, Jessica. Wait, Jessica grabbed her arm. Can we talk just for a minute, please? Claire looked down at Noah. Can you go grab the bread we forgot? Right over there? She pointed to the bakery section, still within view. Noah nodded and scampered off. Claire turned back to Jessica, arms crossed. What do you want to say? I'm sorry. Jessica's voice cracked. I'm so sorry for what I did, for kicking you out when you needed help, for not trying to find you, for all of it. Okay. Okay? Jessica looked confused. That's it? What do you want me to say? That it's fine, that I forgive you? Claire shook her head. I spent 8 months sleeping on concrete because you chose your boyfriend over our friendship. I nearly died of hypothermia twice. I ate out of dumpsters. I got harassed and propositioned and attacked. And you want me to just say okay and move on? No, Jessica's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what I want. I just feel terrible. Good. You should feel terrible. Are you ever going to forgive me? Claire thought about that. Really thought about it. A month ago, the answer would have been an automatic no. But living with Adrian and Noah had softened something in her, had reminded her that people were complicated and flawed, and sometimes did terrible things for reasons that made sense to them at the time. Maybe someday, she said finally. But not today. Today I'm still too angry. Jessica nodded, wiping her eyes. That's fair. I deserve that too. Noah came running back with a loaf of sourdough, and Claire took it from him gratefully. Ready to go, buddy? Yeah, can we get ice cream on the way home? Absolutely. As they walked away, Jessica called out, Claire, I really am happy you're okay, that you found somewhere safe. Claire didn't turn around, but she raised one hand in acknowledgement. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. Maybe that was enough for now. In the car, Noah was uncharacteristically quiet. You okay? Claire asked, glancing at him in the rear-view mirror. That lady made you sad. A little bit, yeah. Was she mean to you before? Not mean exactly, just she wasn't there when I needed her to be. Noah thought about this. Like my mom. The comparison caught Claire off guard. Sort of, yeah. Do you miss her? The lady from the store? I miss who I thought she was. But it turns out she wasn't really that person. That's confusing. Yeah, Claire agreed. It really is. That evening, after Noah was in bed, Claire told Adrian about running into Jessica. They were sitting on the back deck, a space Claire had only recently discovered, all comfortable furniture and string lights that made everything feel magical. How did it make you feel? Adrian asked. Seeing her again? Angry, sad, vindicated, weirdly. Claire pulled her sweater tighter around herself. She looked so shocked that I was okay, like she'd written me off as a lost cause. People underestimate you. Adrian's voice was quiet. They always have. What makes you say that? Because I've seen it. The other parents at school, my business associates when I mention you, even Jennifer when I first told her I was hiring you. Everyone assumes they know your story, who you are, what you're capable of. And they're always wrong. Claire felt her throat tighten. You don't know my whole story either. No. But I know enough to know you're stronger than anyone gives you credit for, including yourself. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the city lights twinkling in the distance. Can I ask you something? Claire said finally. Anything. What are we doing? Really doing? Because this thing between us, it's not going away, and pretending it doesn't exist is getting harder. Adrian turned to look at her, his expression serious in the dim light. What do you want to be doing? I don't know. I just know that every time you look at me, I forget how to breathe. And that's terrifying because I've worked so hard to put my life back together, and getting involved with you could mess everything up. Or it could make everything better. You don't know that. No, Adrian admitted, but I'd like to find out. Claire's heart was hammering. What about Noah? If we try this and it doesn't work, he gets hurt. I can't do that to him. What if we try this and it does work? That's a big what if. So is assuming it won't. Adrian reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. I'm not asking you to jump into anything. I'm just asking you to consider the possibility that maybe, just maybe, we deserve to be happy. I don't know how to do this, Claire whispered. How to be with someone. I've spent so long just surviving that I forgot how to actually live. Then we'll figure it out together, one day at a time. Claire looked at their joined hands, at the way her scarred palm fit perfectly against his. She thought about all the reasons this was a bad idea, all the ways it could go wrong. But she also thought about Noah's smile, about the way Adrian had given her a second chance when no one else would, about the feeling of belonging that had grown in her chest over the past 2 months. Okay, she said, one day at a time. Adrian's smile was like sunrise, slow and warm and full of promise. He leaned in, and Claire met him halfway, and when their lips touched, it felt like coming home. The kiss was soft and careful, both of them treating this moment like the fragile, precious thing it was. When they pulled apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that for weeks, he admitted. Me too. Yeah? Yeah. They sat there under the string lights, hands clasped, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, Claire felt completely, perfectly at peace. The next few weeks were a strange kind of wonderful. Adrian and Claire navigated their new relationship with the careful attention of people walking on eggshells, hyper-aware of Noah and how their dynamic might affect him. But Noah, with the uncanny perception of children, seemed to think everything was exactly as it should be. Are you and Dad dating now? He asked Claire one afternoon, completely out of nowhere. Claire froze, a dish towel in her hands. What makes you ask that? Because he touches your back when he walks past you now, and you both get all smiley and weird when you think I'm not looking. Noah didn't even glance up from his Legos. Also, he bought you flowers last week. Dad never buys flowers. They were for the house, Claire said weakly. They were pink roses, your favorite. You told me that when we saw them at the farmer's market. Noah finally looked up, his expression serious. It's okay if you're dating. I don't mind. You don't? No, I like you. And Dad's happier when you're around. Why would I mind? Claire sat down on the floor beside him, overwhelmed by the simple logic of a 7-year-old who just wanted the people he loved to be happy. You're a pretty cool kid, you know that? Noah grinned. I know. That night, Claire told Adrian about the conversation. He laughed so hard he nearly spilled his wine. He's known the whole time, Adrian said. We're terrible at being subtle. Apparently. Claire shook her head. He's okay with it, though. That's what matters. More than okay. He asked me yesterday if you were going to be his new mom. Claire's breath caught. What did you tell him? That relationships don't work that way. That we're taking things slow. That labels don't matter as much as how we treat each other. Adrian set down his glass. But between you and me, the idea of you being his mother doesn't scare me the way I thought it would. It should scare you. I have no idea what I'm doing. Neither do I. But we're figuring it out together, aren't we? I guess we are. Spring turned to summer, and with it came changes. Claire officially got her teaching license reinstated after months of paperwork and background checks. Adrian surprised her by funding a new community center in the neighborhood where the fire had happened, the same fire that had brought them all together. "I want you to help design the educational programs," he said when he showed her the architectural plans. "You're the teacher. You know what kids need." Claire stared at the blueprints, overwhelmed. "Adrian, this is incredible. It's necessary. That neighborhood's been underserved for years. This is just a start." They worked on the project together over the summer, Claire developing curricula while Adrian handled the business and construction side. It felt good to be using her teaching skills again, to be creating something that would help kids who needed it. Noah started attending a summer day camp where he made more friends and came home every day with elaborate stories about capture the flag tournaments and nature hikes. His anxiety had diminished to the point where his therapist, who Claire and Adrian had finally gotten him to talk to, suggested reducing his appointments to once a month. "He's doing remarkably well," Dr. Chen said during a parent meeting. "The stability at home, the consistent routines, the feeling of being safe and loved. It's made all the difference." Walking out of that appointment, Adrian grabbed Claire's hand and didn't let go. "We did that," he said quietly. "Together. You did most of it. You're his dad. And you're—" Adrian stopped, searching for words. "You're everything else. The glue holding us together. The reason he smiles every morning. The person who makes our house feel like a home." Claire's eyes stung with tears she refused to let fall. "Stop. You're going to make me cry in this parking lot." "Would that be so terrible?" "Yes. I have a reputation to maintain." Adrian laughed and pulled her into a hug, right there in the therapist's parking lot, not caring who saw. In August, Noah turned 7. They threw him a birthday party at the new community center, which was nearly finished. Noah invited his entire class, and to Claire's surprise, most of them actually came. Even Marcus, whose mother had apparently gotten over her objections after her husband took a job at Kingston Technologies. Claire bit her tongue on the irony. The party was chaos in the best possible way. Kids running everywhere, cake smashed into carpet, the kind of beautiful mess that meant everyone was having fun. Noah was in his element, showing off his new Legos and explaining the community center's features to anyone who would listen. "This is where my dad works," he announced proudly. "And Claire helped design the classrooms. She's a teacher. She's really smart." Claire caught Adrian's eye across the room, and he mouthed, "I love you," when he thought no one was looking. She mouthed it back. Later that night, after all the guests had left and Noah had crashed from a sugar high, Claire and Adrian stood in the empty community center. "We should probably name this place," Adrian said, looking around at the fresh paint and new furniture. "You're the one who funded it. You should name it." "I was thinking the Dawson Center." Adrian's voice was casual, but his eyes were serious. "After the woman who showed me that courage isn't about money or power, it's about running into burning buildings for kids you don't know." Claire's throat was too tight to speak for a moment. "You can't name it after me." "Why not?" "Because I didn't—" She struggled to find words. "I just did what anyone would do." "No, Claire. You did what no one else did. You saw someone who needed help and you helped them, even though it cost you. That's worth honoring." "The Dawson Center," Claire repeated, testing the words. "It sounds too formal." "The Claire Dawson Hope Center?" "Absolutely not." They went back and forth, laughing and suggesting increasingly ridiculous names until they finally settled on the Second Chance Center. It felt right. A place for new beginnings, for kids who needed someone to believe in them, for second chances that might change everything. Just like the one Adrian had given Claire. The center's grand opening came in September, right as Noah started second grade. The neighborhood turned out in force. Families, local politicians, media covering Adrian's latest philanthropic venture. But what mattered most to Claire were the kids, dozens of them, exploring the new space with wide eyes and excited chatter. "This is amazing," one mother said to Claire, her accent thick and her eyes grateful. "My daughter, she has nowhere to go after school while I work. This program, it's answer to prayer." Claire directed her to the registration desk, then found herself standing in the main classroom, the one she'd designed specifically for elementary tutoring. She ran her hand over the brand new desks, the colorful posters on the walls, the books lining the shelves. A year ago, she'd been sleeping on loading docks. Now she was here, about to start teaching again at a private academy while also volunteering at this center on weekends. Life was strange, beautiful and strange, and nothing like she'd planned. "There you are." Adrian appeared in the doorway, Noah's hand in his. "We've been looking for you. There's someone who wants to meet you." He stepped aside and Claire's breath caught. It was the fire chief. The same one who'd been at the scene that night, the one who'd overseen the rescue operation. "Ms. Dawson," he said, extending his hand. "Chief Morrison, I've been wanting to thank you properly for what you did that night. That was one of the bravest things I've seen in 30 years of firefighting." Claire shook his hand, overwhelmed. "I just reacted. I didn't think about it. That's what makes it brave. Most people freeze. You ran toward danger." He glanced at Noah. "You saved this young man's life. His father's been telling me about this center, about everything you're doing. You should be proud." After he left, Noah tugged on Claire's sleeve. "He said you were brave." "I guess I was." "I already knew that," Noah said matter-of-factly. "You're the bravest person I know." Claire knelt down to his level, her eyes stinging. "You know what? You're pretty brave too. Braver than you think." "Because I made friends at camp? Because you kept being kind even when people were mean to you? Because you trusted me when you'd been hurt before? Because you keep trying even when things are scary?" Claire pulled him into a hug. "That's the best kind of brave." Noah hugged her back fiercely. When he pulled away, his expression was serious. "Claire, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you going to stay forever? Like, really forever?" Claire looked up at Adrian, who was watching them with an expression so full of love it took her breath away. "Yeah, buddy," she said softly. "I'm going to stay forever." "Good, because you're my family now." The word hit her like a lightning bolt. Family. Not employee, not nanny, not the woman who lived with them. Family. "You're my family too," Claire whispered. "Both of you." That night, after Noah was asleep and the house was quiet, Adrian found Claire on the back deck again. It had become their spot, the place where they had their most honest conversations. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Claire's heart stopped. "Adrian, it's not that. Not yet." He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver necklace with a small pendant. "It's a phoenix, for rising from the ashes." The symbolism wasn't subtle, but it was perfect. Claire let him fasten it around her neck, her fingers touching the pendant. "Thank you," she managed. "Claire," Adrian took her hands in his. "I know we said we'd take things slow, and we have been, but I need you to know something." "Okay? I'm in love with you. Completely, terrifyingly in love with you. I have been for months. And I know this started under strange circumstances, and I know there's a power dynamic we have to be careful about, but..." He took a breath. "I can't imagine my life without you in it. You've changed everything. Me, Noah, our whole world. You made us whole again." Claire's tears were falling freely now. "I love you too. I've been scared to say it because I thought maybe I was just grateful, or maybe I was confusing security with affection, but it's not that. It's real. You're real, and this is real, and I love you." Adrian pulled her close, and they stood there under the stars, holding each other like they were the only two people in the world. "So what now?" Claire asked eventually. "Now we stop being scared. We build a life together. We give Noah the family he deserves. We make mistakes and figure things out and love each other through all of it." "That's simple?" "That's simple." "What about the fact that I used to be homeless? That people will always judge, will always whisper?" "Let them whisper. I don't care what anyone thinks except you and Noah. And you both think I'm doing okay, so that's enough." Claire laughed through her tears. "You're doing better than okay." "We're doing better than okay," Adrian corrected. "All three of us." And standing there in his arms, Claire finally believed it. She'd spent so long thinking she was broken, that her life was over, that she'd never be whole again. But she'd been wrong. She wasn't broken. She was healing. She wasn't finished. She was beginning, and she wasn't alone anymore. 6 months later, on a cold February evening, exactly 1 year after the fire that had changed everything, Claire stood in front of her third-grade class at Westbrook Academy. It was her first day back teaching, and the kids were looking at her with the curious intensity that 7- and 8-year-olds brought to everything. "Good morning," she said, smiling. "I'm Miss Dawson, and I'm going to be your teacher for the rest of the year." A hand shot up immediately. Are you the lady who saved that kid from the fire? Claire had known this was coming. The story had made local news and kids talked. I am, she said simply. Were you scared? Very scared. Did it hurt when you got burned? Yes, but it was worth it. Why? Another student asked. You didn't even know him. Claire thought about how to answer that, how to explain to children that sometimes you do the right thing, not because you know the outcome, not because you'll get rewarded, but simply because it's right. Because everyone deserves to be saved, she said finally. Everyone deserves someone who'll fight for them, who won't give up on them. And sometimes you have to be that person, even when it's hard. The kids considered this with the seriousness of people encountering a big truth for the first time. Are you married to Noah's dad now? One girl asked, and Claire laughed. Not yet, but ask me again in a few months. Because there was a ring in Adrian's dresser drawer. Claire had found it by accident while putting away laundry, a simple diamond on a platinum band tucked in a velvet box behind his socks. She'd put it back without saying anything, her heart racing with joy and terror in equal measure. Adrian would ask when the time was right, and Claire would say yes, because she'd learned something over the past year, something that all the hardship and pain and struggle had taught her. Life wasn't about avoiding falls. It was about getting back up, about letting people help you stand when you couldn't do it alone, about believing that second chances existed, that redemption was possible, that love could find you even in the darkest places. That night, Claire came home to find Noah and Adrian building an elaborate Lego castle in the living room. They'd made a mess, blocks everywhere, instruction manuals scattered across the floor, but they were laughing, and the house felt warm and alive in a way it never had before she arrived. You're home! Noah abandoned the castle to run and hug her. How was your first day teaching? Perfect, Claire said, and meant it. How was your day? Good. Dad came to eat lunch with me at school, and then we got ice cream even though it's a Tuesday. Sounds like someone's getting spoiled, Claire said, raising an eyebrow at Adrian. Special occasion, Adrian said, not looking remotely apologetic. First day of the rest of our lives and all that. Noah rolled his eyes. Dad's being dramatic again. He does that sometimes, Claire agreed, grinning. They ate dinner together, the three of them, talking about their days and making plans for the weekend. After Noah went to bed, Claire and Adrian cleaned up the Lego mess, working in comfortable silence. I saw it, Claire said as she handed him a handful of small blocks. Saw what? The ring in your sock drawer. Adrian froze, then laughed. So much for surprise. You were never going to surprise me. I do your laundry. Fair point. He set down the Legos and pulled her close. Does this mean I don't have to do the whole elaborate proposal thing? Oh, you're still doing that. I want the full romantic gesture. Demanding. You love it. I love you, T, Adrian corrected. The demanding part is just a bonus. Claire kissed him, soft and sweet, still marveling at the fact that this was her life now, that she got to have this, the messy house, the happy kid, the man who looked at her like she hung the moon. For the record, she said when they pulled apart, when you do ask, the answer's yes. Good to know. Adrian's smile was radiant. Just to be clear, you're sure? About all of this? About us? About Noah? About building a life together? I've never been more sure of anything. Claire touched the phoenix pendant at her throat, the symbol of everything she'd survived and everything she'd become. You gave me a second chance when I had nothing. Now I want to give you and Noah everything, for as long as you'll have me. Forever, then. Forever, Claire agreed. And looking around at the Lego-strewn living room, at the home they'd built together from the ashes of their separate tragedies, Claire knew she'd finally found what she'd been looking for all along. Not rescue, not charity, not pity, but belonging, purpose, love. A family built not by blood or obligation, but by choice, by courage, by the simple decision to keep showing up, keep trying, keep believing that broken things could be made whole. The fire that night had taken so much, her safety, her certainty, her skin, and her breath. But it had given her something too, a chance to be brave, a reason to run toward danger instead of away from it, a path to the life she was always meant to live. Sometimes the worst moments led to the best outcomes. Sometimes you had to lose everything to find what really mattered. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, you got to start over, to rise from the ashes and become someone new. Someone stronger. Someone who knew that home wasn't a place. It was the people who stayed when everything else fell apart. Claire had found her home, and she was never letting it go. Outside, Chicago glittered in the February darkness, the same city where she'd once slept on frozen concrete. But that felt like another lifetime now, another person entirely. Claire Dawson had been homeless, broken, lost. But Claire Dawson was also brave, resilient, loved, and that, she thought, as Adrian's arms wrapped around her and Noah's soft snoring drifted down from upstairs, made all the difference.